Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. It's been just a little over a week since we capped things off from the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals in Las Vegas, the 23rd running of that amazing event. And after taking 4 or 5 days off through the Thanksgiving holiday weekend to kind of decompress and fire up for this new week, I'm back. David Cole's back. Again, my name's Rob Howden. This is the debrief of the Super Nats, episode number 60. It is Monday, December the 2nd. We were into the final month of the 2019 calendar. Excited to get on to things here and start looking at 2020. But again, David Cole and I getting ready to give you what will be a pretty long podcast, I think. We got a lot to talk about from the Super Nats, all the action, of course, the 12 categories. So quite a bit to go through in this edition of the debrief. We're glad you're tuning in. Today's show is being presented by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy offers custom coaching programs for newcomers and experienced racers alike. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-7223. All right, David Cole, welcome to the show, buddy. It's we're a week from the Super Nats, but man, what a race it was.
It was one to remember. It was the 23rd episode of the Super Nationals. Pretty exciting from start to finish, obviously, with the way everything kind of unfolded with the opening 2 days of seeing wet weather, which is something we haven't seen since 2013 of the original Soggy Nats. So it's been a while since we saw that. So Wednesday and Thursday were quite interesting. Thankfully, the weather forecast turned for the better for the remainder of the weekend. We had clear skies Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it took away that angle of drama, but still on track. Crazy, exciting moments throughout the week.
Yeah, it was exciting, right? Lots of last lap passes for the race win, which makes things exciting. We had guys coming from deeper in the field after issues in qualifying. Of course, we'll talk all about that when we go class by class. I thought we had a solid week for us, David, in terms of our coverage, our EKN Trackside Live coverage, which was, of course, presented by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. We're doing all our live stuff every night, the Facebook Live debriefs for a lot of fun, even though we kind of ran out of power on Super Sunday. Seems my phone wasn't fully charged up, which was an error on my part. But all in all, it's a pretty good coverage and a lot of great feedback from people, too.
Yeah, that was equipment malfunction. We just my cell phone wasn't even alive, I think, as well, too, so I had to charge that up.
No.
So it was a little bit of a chaotic, because Sunday is just so long for us, though, because we're at the track 8 a.m., and opening ceremonies begin at 10. So it's like, and then from 10:30 to I think 5 o'clock we were trackside. So it's a nonstop thing. You got to have your cell phone on you, because you keep going back and forth between our Cooper Tire Tower and the podium ceremony, which is right on the racetrack. So it's a lot of activity for just the three of us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. At least you did a great job with the social media as well. Let's look at the numbers, Dave. All told, 502. I think they rolled in with about 490. Ended up going about 502, over 500. Overall, most of the categories down a couple. A number were up, but some just down a couple. Obviously, the number, I'm going to say resurgence isn't the word, more like the continuing growth of KA 100. Big numbers, they went up in junior, up in senior. Pretty impressive. That KO 100 category really has become a big part of the SCUSA program.
You knew that was going to be the two categories that sold out if they were going to sell out, and they did. And they did. That's the one thing SCUSA did this year. They typically did the 44, and that was it, no matter what. And then if people dropped, and they didn't add them. Well, this year they kind of kept a buffer. Thinking people were going to drop out. Well, KA 100 senior, nobody dropped out, and they had 50.
Exactly.
KA 100 junior, they had 49. So it went above that 44 limit that they typically set. But again, we're at a long track. It's the Super Nationals. We're allowed to have kind of these big fields, which is fine. Drivers who struggle might not exactly enjoy it because it means more people they got to pass in order to get back towards the front half of the field. So, but yeah, we knew numbers wise, it's been growing, as you said, a consistent growth throughout the year. We knew it was going to be big in Vegas.
What I thought was interesting were the pro shifter. Obviously, everybody was watching what was going to happen in the transition from the stock Honda to the IAME SSE motor. In the pro shifter category, pretty much the same, right? There was 38 drivers last year. There ended up being 39 in total in the split Pro 1 and Pro 2 class. The biggest drop was obviously in the master shifters, David. There was 15 G1s and 6 G2s, only 21 down from 35 in total last year. But again, this program just continues to grow. More drivers sign on. It's really the first year of the program to a certain extent. And I thought they were probably pretty happy with an almost full grid of pro shifters in that class.
Well, it's a little bit of, I hate to say I told you so, but that's what we expected going into this year when they made that move from the stock Honda to the 175 in the Masters category. It's like you got to give these guys a little bit of time and space because everybody knew it was coming for the pro guys. And so they've had no issues jumping over into the new power plant, where some of the Masters guys, they're a bit older. Some are wiser, some are not. Depends on who you're talking to. But they're some people are set in their ways, and if you're not going to give them that amount of time to make that transition over, they're just going to go somewhere else. And I think that's kind of what we saw. So that's where we're really struggling numbers wise. I mean, we saw it all year long with G1 and G2 having low numbers on the Pro Tour. We haven't seen exactly any big numbers anywhere regionally wise for those categories. So again, that's something that's going to have to be the focus for Superkarts USA going into 2020.
Agreed. So overall numbers a little bit down, but still, anytime you're over top of that 500 mark, you know it's a super nats, it's a major event. Well, folks, we're going to jump into our first break in the action here. Then we'll come back. It's time to start looking at the paddock pass, but stay with us. More to come. The debrief of the Super Nationals here on the EKN Radio Network. Looking for that extra edge? Comet Racing Engines is your answer. The engine service program from Comet Kart Sales has been winning from coast to coast at all levels and different forms of the sport. Lead engine builders Mark Harrison and Gary Lawson have decades of karting experience, providing racers the power to reach the top step of the podium. Comet Racing Engines continually perform track and dyno tests to provide their customers with the cutting edge in engine performance. Comet specializes in Yamaha KT100, IAME Swift, IAME X30, IAME Leopard, and Rock engines. Trackside and customer support are the cornerstones of the Comet Racing Engines business, ensuring each and every customer receives personal attention and the help they need to achieve the best results. Engine rentals are available at all the events that Comet attends in 2018, including WKA, SCUSA, USPKS, and the Route 66 Sprint Series. Contact the Comet team today at cometkartsales.com or by calling 317-462-3413. If you're looking to step up your engine program, send it to Comet Racing Engines. Karts, parts, engines, tires, and tools. At sharkshifter.com, what you need is just a click away. We carry the biggest names in chassis, like Tony Kart and FA, DR Kart, CRG, and VLR. We have new chassis and all the parts you need. At sharkshifter.com, we also stock top quality replacement parts from Swift components, like axles, sprockets, and hubs. We have the inventory you need for your stock Honda as well, from cylinders, heads, and engine parts to reeds, exhaust pipes, ignition covers, radiators, air filters, and air boxes. We build our own billet aluminum components as well, including motor mounts and clutch levers. Need to add to your toolbox? We offer alignment tools, brake, battery, and exhaust tools, tire gauges, and hand tools. Stop messing around getting your seat in the right position. We have a seat mounting system that makes it easy. Check the website for monthly specials. If you need it, we can get it to you fast. We ship the same day. Sharkshifter.com, your online source for karts and parts. The 2020 racing season is closing fast, and Superkarts USA will press the reset button just after the new year for the third running of the SCUSA Winter Series. The program drew big numbers last year, and we expect solid growth for the coming edition. We're again setting up shop at AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex, presented by MG Tires, for two exciting doubleheader weekends on January 10 to 12 and February 7 to 9. All the SCUSA Pro Tour classes will be running at the Winter Series, so it's the perfect spring training for next year's National Championship Series. The weather will be ideal, so get out of the snow and join us for two fun weekends in South Florida. We'll have Pro and G1 G2 shifter featuring the IAME SSE 175cc engine and all the IAME X30, KA100, and Swift classes as well. We'll also be welcoming the popular Margay Ignite Challenge to the Winter Series for a little taste of Briggs 206 competition. Registration opens on December 1st. For more information, visit superkartsusa.com. And to learn more about the Margay Ignite program, check out ignitekarting.com. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howard alongside David Cole. Episode number 60 of the EKN Debrief podcast, where we review all the events that we attend trackside. This one, obviously, the biggest of them all, the Superkarts USA Super Nationals from the Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. We gave you a little breakdown of some of the class numbers. Let's jump now into the Paddock Pass, presented today by J3 Competition and CompKart. Since 2005, J3 Competition has been capturing major victories and championships on and off the racetrack, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and brand recognition and developed its own chassis line, the CompKart. The CIK FIA homologated brand has been winning ever since. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. All right, David, let's jump here into the Paddock Pass, look at some of the stuff that didn't happen race-wise. First and foremost, anytime you go to the Super Nats, one of the big unveilings is the racetrack design. It's always been significantly different, designed by different people over the last number of years. This year's track, though, very similar to 2018.
Very similar. Essentially, they took the same blueprints and diagrams, and they instituted it for this year's track. Actually, building it how it was designed to be built. Probably the most notable things we saw right away was the adjustment in 7, 8, 9, 10, where the S's sections were. That was more of defined corners, more radius corners, rather than last year they were kind of just straight through, shoot through, and kind of. So there wasn't any kart chassis bending, if you want to say it.
Yeah,
going right to left type scenario. This time the turns were more defined, had more radius, and thus forced drivers to drive through these corners rather than just hammer through straight through. So that kind of changed things up, and also set up more passing opportunities, because we saw guys passing into the first set of S's and really passing into the second set of S's. So it offered another passing situation. Turns 4 and 5 section right there on the pit out was a little bit different. It was in the same section or same area, but there was no curb for turn 5, where we saw Brent Cruz launch over in his nitro kart to go on to win in the mini Swift category. Yep. So it was a barrier. So if you went off course, you either had to get out of it or you were kissing the barriers. So that was a big difference. And plus, it seemed like turn 4 was rather than a double apex, was just a single apex. And we saw Christian Brooks try and get inside of Lorenzo Travisanuto. So that was a bit of a difference. And then also turn 1. It actually stretched out further down towards that VIP tent that a lot of people took advantage of throughout the week. So the apex was further deeper into that section, which made the run towards turn 2 a little bit longer. So provided more room for guys to wiggle around and get that 3 to 4 carts wide into turn 2.
But the only issue, I think, with turn number 1, most guys I talked to like the longer run out of turn 11 down to 1, and of course 1 back to 2, as you had mentioned. Probably the only major issue was the fact that there really isn't any more room to push the X or put the outer curbing or outer barriers rather, further down. So it was really, really narrow there. It was a lot wider, of course. Like the barriers were the same place they were on the outside when the apex was much earlier. So it got pretty tight. It got times where the track almost was totally blocked, which, again, that's kind of, I guess, weighing it out because you take the good with the bad because the actual layout of the track itself worked well there. One thing I did find interesting, David, again, especially with this track layout, we saw it last year, we saw it this year. Anytime a leader or a driver started to block to run the defensive line, whether it was into 4 or back into 6, wherever you were starting to run that defensive line, that brought everybody else back to fight. And that's, if you had the patience not to do that and the guys behind you worked with you, we saw guys pull away. When guys weren't working with each other and guys were getting defensive, that's when that's when 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th came back into the fight.
Well, that just seems to be the nature of the pushback bumper and defensive driving. Really, it's not just this track, but we see it everywhere and around the world. It's, if you're cutting a second off your standard lap time because you're running a defensive line, that's going to allow whoever's back by 3 seconds to close in a second a lap, and then boom, within two laps, you're kind of right there. You're sniffing it, yep. And all of a sudden you're in the mix. And we saw that in the many categories where the leaders started to run a defensive line, all the way from micro all the way up to X30 senior. So it's not just the pros, but some of these kids are doing the same thing too.
Dave, let's talk a little bit about the comparison between the IAME SSE 175 engine and the KZ. Obviously those engines on the same track, on the same event, same weekend. KZ ended up being a bit quicker, but I thought the comparison was something people were definitely going to be looking at.
Yeah, that was just kind of a side note and kind of an interest for those who are involved in shifter kart racing, because everybody's talked about, the implementation of the IAME SSE engine and why are they doing that. And it was basically an upgrade from the Honda package, and still to be not quite what KZ is, because we see it now every year. The KZ engines are just monsters. They are just flat out monsters, but you have to have the right engine combination or right engine builder to be able to be fast. I think that's why we saw, something we didn't mention about in the numbers. We had 41 KZs last year and only 23 this year. I think it's harder for them to bring engines over, and then you have to bring them back. It probably would be easier for them to just sell them here, but there's no market for them here. I think the northeast area is the only place you run KZ engines. Everywhere else, it's now the IAME engine, or club racers are still running the stock Hondas or other rock engines as well. So that has part of it. That's part of it. And again, the 175 wasn't built to be the quickest thing out there. It was built for reliability, and I think that they are doing that as long as you're able to tune the engine, because again, you still have to be able to tune an engine to make it last long before it starts seizing on you or other mechanical issues with it. So that, again, IAME SSE engine was not built to beat the KZ.
Yep, that's it. That's the right line. One of the things we saw in the shifter kart categories as well, David, which was interesting to you and I, in both the Pro Shifter 1 and Pro Shifter 2 and the G1 and G2 classes, they mixed everybody together based on both categories together on track, and for the standing starts based on where you qualified. Then they split it up for the main events and did the staggered starts. They rolled Pro 1 first, waited for a while, then rolled Pro 2. And I thought that was an interesting approach, the fact that they didn't use it all weekend long.
I thought it was the wrong approach. I thought they should have done that all week long. I think it screwed Matias Ramirez and Pro Shifter. He had to start behind all of the 22 Pro Shifter 2 drivers in order to catch up to the rest of the field that's in his class. And then thankfully for G1 guys such as Matt Hamilton, he only had to have 6 guys he had to go through in G2 before he got into the G1 guys and start making his way up through during those heat races. If they would have been staggered starts, it would have made things a lot easier for drivers within their categories and drivers who had issues in qualifying. And again, it would take away that, two classes racing against each other. That's something we don't want to see at the Super Nationals. I like the idea of having the two classes together if that's what the racers want, because again, we had just one pro shifter class last year. We just had one master shifter class last year. If that's what the racers want, fine, but we have to run them together. But in order to make it fair throughout the week, we got to keep them separated.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. A couple things just to bring up, I guess, as we wrap up this part of the Paddock Pass. The Supercarts USA started their Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. They did not induct anybody into the Hall of Fame this particular year. I didn't actually get a chance to talk to anybody about that. I assume that they'll probably get it back in 2020. Other one of the great stories, David, was kind of the return of the Track Magic name to the Super Nationals with the whole crew, Jason LaPointe, Howie Idelson, Ryan Fow, and so many of the other ex-drivers like Oliver Rowan, Kyle Martin, Landon Yee, Joe Odenthal. There was a lot of guys that, ex-Track Magic guys, but they had that yellow and black branding on the cart of Matias Ramirez and KZ. He put a show on for them. He was, running top 5 all weekend long. That was just a really cool story for a guy like me who's been around all 23 of the events to be able to see Track Magic there again.
It was a very interesting dynamic to the event because it has a lot of history at the Super Nationals. It has a lot of history within Supercarts USA. And as we said, SCUSA Hall of Fame inducted. Oh my gosh, why is the name coming blank?
Fausto Vitello.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't come out of my head.
Almost before your time.
Well, it was, yeah, in a way, but yeah, it was because you had probably 25 to 30 people who were just there for the Track Magic gathering, and all of those people are cheering on one single cart. Now, mind you, they probably were cheering on the GFC carts that were in the other categories, but because it had the Track Magic colors, it was the only one at the Super Nationals. It just had it was almost like, like football teams, all these people came to this stadium to come and watch this one team or this one driver.
Yeah, all the alumni, right?
Exactly.
Dave? All the alumni.
So it's a little bit like college.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit like college. And that's something you don't see a lot in racing. Obviously, you do see it in sports car racings where people are loyal to the brand. You don't really see that in karting until now, really, because everybody that's had a Track Magic is pretty loyal to that brand.
Yeah, agreed. No doubt about that. It was just cool to see them come back. And as I said, Ramirez did a fantastic job, and KZ was right in the middle of the top 5 fight throughout the weekend. Excellent. It's just a ton of fun to watch for sure. And it was cool to see them back. Great to see old friends from the early days of the SCUSA Promoto Tour as well. But yeah, having Track Magic back. And the cool thing is, it sounds like more's coming. They've got more ideas. This is kind of getting the ball in motion here. They built 10 of the branded Track Magic carts that are, I think, all spoken for at this point already. So there's thoughts, I think, of potentially expanding and maybe having some more carts. We'll see what happens with that program. It's just good to have them back. All right, folks, there's the Paddock Pass for this edition of the EKN Debrief. When we get back after this break, it's time to start going into the race report. We'll review the races class by class, starting with Pro Shifter. Top quality material, all presented in fluorescent yellow. You've seen it, and now you need to choose the flow. Since 2005, J3 Competition has been capturing major victories and championships both on and off the track, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and rolled it into their own chassis line in 2015, the Comp Cart. The CIK FIA homologated brand has been winning races ever since. There are 3 Comp Cart models to choose from. The Covert 3.0 R19 is the latest design for tag and shifter competition. The Covert 4R serves several popular categories, including 100cc and Brakes 206 racing. The Ranger 28 model is designed for cadet racing and will be the official chassis of the Minimax division at the 2019 Rotax Challenge Grand Finals in Sarno, Italy. And lastly, new karters can get right into the Comp Cart product from the beginning, running the microcart in the Kid Kart division. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. Do it now. Choose the flow. In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience. we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at franklinkart.com, where all of our products are just a mouse click away and we ship daily. We're constantly adding new products to our online store, so keep checking back. We specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, and of course, our championship-winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find molecule cleaning products, minus 273 racing gloves, micron gauges and components, and both MG and Bridgestone tires. If you're ready to take your racing to the next level, come and join us at Team FMS. We've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for many years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event, to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For 2019, we'll be attending the SuperKart USA Winter Series, WK Manufacturers Cup, United States Pro Kart Series, and the Route 66 Kart Racing Series. And we'd love to have you under our tent at Merlin Nation. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. Every winter, young drivers take the leap up to the next class. Whether it's micro to mini, mini to junior, or the big jump from junior into the senior ranks, it's tougher competition. If your son or daughter are moving up a class in 2020, give them exactly what they need to be ready. Professional coaching from the most respected teacher in the sport. With over 30 years of karting experience, Alan Rudolph and his staff at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy specialize in training young racers and accelerating their skills so that they're ready for the next challenge. Don't just invest in equipment, invest in your driver. Bring them to the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy at Speed Sports Racing Park in Houston and invest in their skill development. Get them ready to take on that next on-track challenge, better prepared than ever. Get ready for 2020 by calling the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy at 866-607-7223. Head to speedsportsracingpark.com to learn more. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. This is the debrief for the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals that happened at the end of November. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. This edition brought to you by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. However, jumping into the race report section, we've got to go through 12 different categories, and today that will be presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get you the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. All right, David Cole, let's grab it and go green here, because let's start with Pro Shifter, because just a tremendous story. All the emotion, the look on Billy Musgrave's face, having won 3 in a row, now a 4-time winner. But having won 3 in a row, he really dominated the action, got pressured throughout the weekend by Jake French. But to see him win, it was the same emotion for the last 3 years, right? It just absolute raw. It just shows the importance of the Super Nationals.
It's what he's worked for all season long. Beginning at December of 2018, you knew he was right back to the racetrack in Cal Speed, preparing for the upcoming season. Mind you, now moved to the Croc Promotion chassis midway throughout the season, so it's been nonstop working with Maddle Nut Racing, and of course under the MRC tent. Making sure everything is put together. They came up short on the Pro Tour title, so you knew it was going to be checkers or wreckers for the victory here at the Super Nationals in Pro Shifter category. And Musgrave did just that. I mean, from the qualifying, obviously the qualifying sessions, we didn't talk about this in the Paddock Insider, but they had a 20-minute open pit for Pro Shifter and the X30 senior category. So we had a little bit of drama in the qualifying session, because it was actually Rory Vanderster who had fast time during that 20-minute session, but his time got removed because of a procedure issue. They originally had him disqualified from the session, and they finally said, nope, we have to go with our penalty structure, and they gave him a 10-position penalty. But because of that penalty, it moved Musgrave to the pole position, where he never relinquished that position, winning all 3 heat races with hole shots on all 3 races. And again, it was going to come down to the hole shot in the main event. And that's where things got a little bit crazy in turn 1 at the start of the main event.
Yeah. That was wild for sure. But yeah, let's go back and just reiterate how good Musgrave was. You said it, David. 3 straight hole shots in the heat races. Essentially he was perfect in terms of those races. Didn't put a wheel wrong. Consistent lap times the entire time on the Croc promotion. Just was really, really nailing it the whole time. But yeah, David, talk a little bit about that opening lap, because I'm trying to call it on the TV because we're doing the live Facebook deal. So I'm calling on the TV. The view was good, but then I'm looking down to try to see it. Where the whole incident was right behind the podium. So from our angle, I couldn't even see who was involved in the incident until we got back around. And of course, I'm trying to call off the TV anyways. But it was a wild one, as everybody was really trying to, I think, push a little too hard on the opening corner.
Yeah, because you knew Musgrave was going to be quick right out of the hole. As you said, he had the whole shot in all 3 heat races. He had the whole shot in the main event, but it was everybody trying to get to be where Jake was, because it was trying to be the top challenger. Yeah. And as soon as the quicker you could get there, the quicker you can attack Musgrave, because he was so quick on the cold tire laps. Turn 1 just kind of was guys all going for the same piece of real estate, making contact on the exit of the corner. And what we saw was Rory Vanderster actually doing a flip with a twist as he got launched up and over one other kart and almost landed on the tech pros that were on the inside of the racetrack. But he landed on his back essentially and on his head. So it was a really hard hit. And thankfully, all the Pro Shifter 2 guys got through that turn 1 chaos without hitting him or without hitting any of the other karts that were on the outside of the corner. Because mind you, we're talking about 6, I believe it was about 6 karts that were involved in this opening corner incident in Pro Shifter. So lots of carnage there. Thankfully, everybody got through it. Rory was obviously shaken up with the incident, but eventually kind of came to his senses and was able to kind of stand there and watch the remainder of the race. But, thankfully there were a lot of photographers there and a few corner workers that were able to help clear out the carnage before lap 2 began. So, it was a bit of a wild ride. There's videos of it on the internet as well. And, just be glad to see Rory walk away.
Yeah, indeed. And it was a really weird flip. Excuse me. The way it happened, as you said, he kind of got in there because he made a move to the inside of 1, climbed up, and you see the thing as it did the full flip and twist. It was odd how it happened. It happened so quickly as well. But that's done. Opening lap, David. We still had 25 laps to run, and Musgrave really just put his head down and started to pull away. Jake French did everything he could, running with PSL karting on the Burrell Art. That's going to be a very, very tough pairing in 2020. Jake pushed hard to try to stick with him. Couldn't get the job done. Ended up finishing in second spot. Still good for him as well. I thought Matias Ramirez, his story was fantastic as well. You mentioned early, David, an issue in qualifying with a broken chain. I think as soon as he came out onto the track, he broke the chain and ends up having to start from the very tail in all the heat races, working his way through the Pro 2 guys, starts 10th in the main event, stays out of that carnage, slides through, and ends up 3rd on the GFC. I think that was a huge, huge run for Matias. Obviously a big run for Gary Carlton's team as well.
Yeah, I think it would have been better to see him race his way up to 3rd, but with the carnage that was involved in that turn 1 wreck, he was able to move up to 3rd right away. And then we had basically a fight for 4th behind those 3 because they were all pretty spaced out. Cody Hodgson was able to score the 4th spot in the Illuminos ahead of Sam Cleese in the Sodi kart. So a little international flavor there.
Yeah, no doubt. Up front, though, let's just put it this way. Here's 4-time winner, David. We have 3 4-time winners now. The first actually coming, the second rather, coming with Kip Foster and Master. We'll talk more about that. But Billy Musgrave's body of work at the Super Nats, winning in his debut year in the S2 category, then absolutely, rocking the last 3 in Pro Shifter. This guy's put his name in the history books.
Without a doubt, and there's probably more ahead because it looks like he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Very true. I will apologize for my scratchy voice, David. I'm still battling a bit of a cold, little cough right now, so there's no Starbucks near where I am. I can't get myself another medicine ball, so. Dude, those were the savior on Super Sunday. The savior.
That helped. It definitely helped you get through all the main events. Only 10 main events, so you're lucky it wasn't 12.
I'll tell you this: my voice held out very well throughout the entire racing on Sunday. Of course, then we were up at the Voodoo Lounge for the after party, and it's so loud, you're screaming and yelling to talk to everybody. I hardly had a voice at all on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Like, it was bad. So I'm just dealing with a bit of a cold. So I want to apologize to everybody for my scratching.
It's that dry California air. You should be back into the cold air.
Not yet. A couple more weeks down here in California, then heading back to Canada for some winter and some Christmas, and then we go back at it again. David, let's look at one of the other pro categories. I thought it was just the way this one played out, not only during the main event, but during the whole weekend. We're talking about X30 Senior, because Ryan Norberg has had limited success at the Supernats, but it appeared the way things were going that he was going to continue this amazing run he's had with Rawlison Performance Group after qualifying on the pole. Ends up winning all 3 of his heat races as well. I thought, man, you know what? This could be an opportunity for Ryan to put that Supernats win on his resume as well.
Without a doubt, the 3 heat wins were not something that he just got. It's something he earned. Yeah. He worked his way into those 3 wins, obviously, and earning fast time in qualifying. And so we knew it was going to be a fight, because every Super Sunday it tends to be a little bit chaotic, and because the racetrack was very similar to what we have last year, we knew it was going to be a very similar race and going down to the wire as it did last year.
What were your thoughts on that race itself, the main event? Because as it played out, I think there was an opportunity for a 3-driver breakaway, but then they started blocking again, and that was crazy. Obviously, Clement DeMello gets into the lead at one point. Then young Jack Crawford, just 14 years of age, he finds himself up front. Then you start going in that defensive, and man, everybody else came back to the fight.
Well, you knew with Norberg having the target on his back, everybody was going to go after him. He didn't really have anybody up front to partner with. That's something we kind of talked about last year. When Ben Cooper was RPG, he had the Lupians. Norberg was Lupian-less. Did not have them. I know Hannah Greenmeyer was up there, but wasn't able to be at the same pace as Norberg was, and Jacob Gulick got wrecked in the opening corner. So he kind of had no wingmen out there. So you knew everybody was going to attack him and attack him quickly. Zachary Clayman DeMello was one of them, along with Jack Crawford and Christian Brooks. Those 3 guys were ruthless. They were on it right away. Danny Curl was also ruthless. There was no partnership whatsoever aside from maybe Crawford and Brooks being teammates. Everybody else was kind of on their own. So that's kind of how the race kind of unfolded. It was, like you said, Zachary Clayman DeMello kind of getting out there, and then really Jack Crawford kind of asserted himself as the quickest driver out there, and kind of took control in the second half of the race after some more shuffling took place. But yeah, and then Danny Curl, being a 2017 World Karting Champion, you knew he was buying his time, and probably was just, I think he kind of put his target on Crawford early on. He's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll push you out to the front, and then I'm going to take care of you that last lap, because that's exactly what happened.
That's it, right? Well, you talk about former world champion versus the 14-year-old kid running in senior. Now, remember, Jack won the Supernats at X30 Junior a couple years ago. Also, now a new Red Bull Junior driver. We'll have to get the full update on that. But you're talking about racing against the world champion who's got the strategy laid down. Like you said, you can lead. I'll push you to the lead. You can lead this thing, but there's enough place to pass on the last lap that I'm going to make a move. And that move coming over in turn number 10, end of the rhythm section before he came onto the straightaway. It looked like it was going to be a little bit of a bump and run, but I think it developed too much, I think, for Danny, as opposed to being just a tap. They kind of got pushed off the line. Zachary Clement DeMello down the inside and is able to steal this win away from P3.
Yeah, Curl just had enough room underneath Crawford to go inside, and he wasn't quite up to the side pod, but never thought about getting out of it. And the two kind of just didn't really make hard contact, but just both slid wide. Of course, coming out of the apex, and Zachary Clayman DeMello was sitting right there in the third spot and said, "Thanks for the gift, boys." And
I'll take it.
Drove down the straightaway without a challenge, as we saw Norberg actually coming up from, I think, back in P12, I think he got shuffled back to. He actually slipped past both of those guys down the straightaway, but it was, as you said, Zachary Claman DeMello scoring the victory unchallenged at the checkered flag.
Norberg, though, did get a penalty, correct?
Yeah, Norberg crossed the line second, but pushback bumper penalty, I believe, is what dropped him out of the top 5.
So that moves Danny Carroll to second, Jack Crawford in third. He was absolutely distraught, having finished in that third position, thinking that the win was almost there for him. Christian Brooks was in the fight pretty much all day long. He ends up P4. And Brandon Jarsakrak, who had to scrap back after a rough go in qualifying, he kind of fought his way back the entire weekend, was able to get himself back up to P5. David, any other notables that you'd like to bring up?
Well, that was Jarsakrak's first podium there after, I think, 5 years now trying. So good props to him. Hard charger of the race went to Caden Gray, the Texas Pro Kart Challenge champion, got in on the provisional, started 41st and got up to 19th. So it was a pretty good drive for him, making do of what he was able to earn throughout the season. Zachary Claman DeMello became the 4th Canadian to win the class. He joins Daniel Morad, Philip Orsic, and of course last year's winner Ben Cooper. So that's 4 for Canada, Team Canada. USA needs to catch up, definitely. And he also became the second IndyCar driver to win this category. Gabby Chavez, who didn't race IndyCar at the time, but won it in the 2012. Damn it, I don't have my.
I think it was 12. I think you're right.
I don't have my sheet open. I'll have to get it open. But yeah, so Chavez won before he was in IndyCar. Zachary Claman DeMello won after he's been in IndyCar. So that's the only kind of difference between those two guys. And as I said, first podium for Jarsakrak, first podium in his senior debut for Jack Crawford, and then obviously first podium for Danny Curl as well.
Some great racing. I love that. And the fact that some drivers, I think you probably could have won, didn't even make the main, or you know what I mean, or didn't. I thought David Serra looked like he was going to have a really good run too. Was able to win one of the heat races, but he had that DNF early. This is a tough class, David. This racing is so aggressive, especially if you get further in the middle of the pack. We saw some drivers get mired back there because guys were racing like it was the last lap of the race midway through. They weren't working together to try to pull back forward. When that starts to happen, you're stuck back there. Nothing you can do about it.
No, you got to find a dancing partner, and I think that's one thing that Curl was able to do. Even though he was a little bit aggressive in the heat races, nobody wanted to be his friend. But if he's going to push you to the front, I guess he becomes kind of your friend until that last lap. So it's all about strategy, and sometimes guys don't have a certain strategy. Some people do, and it completely takes a 180. Because I'm sure Norberg didn't expect to see himself outside the top 10 and have to fight his way forward to try and get back on the podium. So it's just like you said, you got 20 guys that could probably have won that race, and it ended up being, Zachary Claman DeMello winning it. But, any one of those 5 on the podium, any one of the guys in the top 10 and anybody in the top 20 could have won the race.
First 2 class reviews in the books, folks. When we get back after this break, we're going to jump into KZ and Pro Shifter 2. Stay with us. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and safety gear to get you on the track. ShopAKRA.com offers a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors in the sport to ensure that all the latest equipment is available to you, the consumer. With customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price. Be sure to visit shopakra.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Also, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials, clearance items, and new products. You've heard and read about us. We're the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. After putting all 8 of our X30 senior drivers in the main at last year's SCUSA Super Nationals, we're the tent you need to be under this November. We have just 4 spots available, so contact us today to lock in one of our final opportunities. We may be prepping for Las Vegas, but it's also time to talk about 2020. Joining the Rawlson Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Our industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and former Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. In 2020, we'll be racing in the SCUSA Winter Series, Pro Tour, and California Pro Kart Challenge, as well as the IKF Northwest region. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. We do have different levels of programs available for the IKF Sprint Grand Nationals at Pat's Acres on the September 20, 21-22 weekend. So if you want to get a head start on 2020, come up and join us and take your shot at winning a Duffy, one of the most prestigious trophies in the sport. We're the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. We offer trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. We're also your Midwest home for Tony Kart and Miami, and we're your source for MG and Avinco tires in the region. Tony Kart quality cannot be beat, so call us today to put you in a new chassis for your next event. In 2020, we'll be racing and providing arrive and drive programs for the full SuperKarts USA Pro Tour and the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, the WKA's Kart Week in Daytona, and exciting events like the USAC Battle at the Brickyard and the Rock Island Grand Prix. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group has a long history in the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden and David Cole presenting episode number 60 of the EKN Debrief as we review the most recent running of the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals in Las Vegas. SuperNats number 23. Our race report today presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. And David, let's jump into the KZ category, the International Shifter class. The word you and I used a lot was redemption. It was going to be the opportunity for Marjan Kremers to come back after what happened last year where he led early, had a good cushion, red flag, bunched everybody else back together. He ends up losing the spot to Lorandi and the victory. This year he comes in, though, with PSL once again on the Burrell Art as the world champion. And for really majority of the weekend, he was the dominant driver.
Yeah, nobody really had anything for him throughout qualifying, throughout the three heat races. I mean, Kremers went wire to wire throughout all four sessions. Had nobody on his bumper or challenging him. A little, probably maybe half a second off, maybe was the closest finish through those heat races, but really seemed to have everything in hand going into Super Sunday, where things were a little bit different because now, guys, the main event was a little bit in the hot sun where everything for KZ category was in the afternoon hours. So sun going down and at night, especially Heat 2, racing under the lights and qualifying under the lights. So track conditions were obviously a little bit were different from what they've been used to all week long.
Yeah, and I think that played to Danny Formal and Greg Bell at Leading Edge Motorsports, right? They not so much it played to them, but maybe it gave them the opportunity, or any mechanic the opportunity to try to hit that absolute sweet spot. And in talking to Danny and talking to Greg afterwards, that just the car, the changes they made to the chassis itself, the car was absolutely perfect. And then we watched Formal simply race his way to the front, David, and near the end of that race, we were about 5 to go, and he flat took control on the Formula K.
He took control early too, and that's what was shocking because he passed Kremers early on down the straightaway. Actually, I was taking photos there. He actually looked over and made a signal to Kremers and I haven't gotten back to Danny to ask him about it because I wanted to look at the photos, and I haven't been able to do so. But it was very interesting mindset, or maybe a mind game that he was kind of playing with Kremers, and then Kremers kind of took it as the challenge and went back after him. And then Formal just kind of sat back there waiting and buying his time. And I think it with 5 laps to go, Formal took back the lead, and that was it. And that was the deciding move. And Kremers just couldn't respond in those closing laps to get back around Formal. And again, the heat races were only 12 laps. The main event, 25 laps. So that has another scenario to it as well. So again, you got to be able to set up a cart and set up an engine to make that long run in order to be crowned champion and Super Sunday.
Just a massive win though for Danny Formal. Again, you saw the emotion out of him on that as well. Huge for Greg Bell and Leading Edge Motorsports to be able to come in here and win what is the single greatest event in North American karting, right? To be able to come in and win the big show, $10,000 for Formal. I thought he did a tremendous job. I think we all figured Kremers was going to, I don't want to say walk it. I don't want to downgrade anybody else, but I think we figured here comes the guy that almost won it last year. He's riding off the momentum and the confidence of being the world champion. This guy's just going to roll and make it happen. And for all intents and purposes, that's what we saw for the first 3 days on the racetrack. But main event, as you said, David, at a different time of the day, a lot warmer than what they ran during their heat races. The extended distance from 12 to 25 over twice the distance of the heat races. I thought it played out to a fantastic story. Danny Formal with the win, Marian Kremers in second. Maximilian Paul was very strong on the DR card as well for DRT Racing. He ends up in third. Emilian Denner was strong on the Sodi cart throughout the weekend. And Noah Molell, I probably expect a little bit more to Noah. He had good speed, not able to get off the line well at the start of that race and fell back a bit. Let's not leave out Matias Ramirez. We talked a little bit about him in the Track Magic section of the Paddock Pass. They had the yellow and black out there with the Track Magic, and I thought Ramirez, he was in a top 5 position, David, until an issue with the engine on the final, a couple laps to go, I think?
Yeah, he was right there behind Formal at one point when Formal was trailing Kremers, and so you thought Ramirez was kind of buying his time and waiting too, but with 2 laps remaining, came into turn 2 and just came to a stop there with a mechanical issue, and so kind of dashed the dreams of putting Track Magic back on the podium once again at the Super Nationals. But I hate, it's going to be one thing to watch next year is there's going to be another Track Magic for sure battling probably in this KZ category.
Let's talk about extras, David. You got a hard charger for me?
Yeah, hard charger. Oh man, see, give me names I don't like saying. Vincenzo Serencino. See, I can't say it. Drove from 15th to 7th. This was the second straight year for Kremers as the runner-up, as we've already mentioned before. And another note, I believe Danny Formal is close to $50,000 won at the Super Nationals. He had, I believe it was $10,000 for his first Super Nats, $20,000 for his second Super Nats as he came back to as a repeat winner. And they had, I think it was another $10,000 bounty out for anybody who could repeat. And then
that was the 20th
right,
running, right?
Correct.
It was $20,000 for the 20th.
And so you add this $10,000 to it as well, and then probably some other money that he's won throughout the years and Tag Senior or S1 or other races in KZ, I believe, maybe possibly. So he's getting close to probably $50,000 won there.
That's great. Isn't that wild? That's great stuff for sure. Let's move now into the Pro Shifter 2 category. And just as we expected, I think Marian Kremers to do what he did, qualify so well and kind of dominate the heat races. I think you and I, David, both figured the same was going to happen with Race Liberante in his comp kart machine for J3 competition, because he was really the dominant driver in the Pro 2 class throughout the Pro Tour this year. Has already said that he's going to move to Pro 1 in 2020. It's been many years since he's been running at this level. So I think Pro 2 was the place for him to definitely make his re-entry. But man, he was the guy to beat throughout the entire weekend.
Well, 12 years to be exact since his last Super Nationals when he was on the podium in S5 back in 2007. I don't remember it because I wasn't there. That was the only year I've missed since 2004. So he was a little bit shorter, a little bit chubbier. but was on the podium. And this time he got one step higher, just dominating the Pro Shifter 2 category throughout the week. The final actually looked to be like it was going to be a little bit of a race. Again, they did the staggered start, so Pro Shifter 2 was on its own, and they got to race against their own. And Calvin Ming gave him a little bit of a challenge in the early couple of laps, but Ming came under attack by a Croc Promotion Gathering. They're fighting for second place.
Yeah, I was real impressed. You had picked Micah Hendricks. I think when we get into the predictions, we'll talk about that. Micah did a tremendous job. He put a lot of time in. I learned a little more about how much work they did. A lot of testing at the Phoenix track to try to be ready for the Super Nationals, and that working out really well for him. Chente Salas ends up coming home in the third spot, and Calvin Ming in fourth, as you said. 3 Croc promotions on the podium in the Pro Shifter category, and I know they'll be pretty pumped with that. Salas, a young driver coming out of the S3 category, he had won the Streets of Lancaster Grand Prix Scholarship for 2020 as well. Calvin Ming's a driver I've watched in the USF 2000 series as part of the Road to Indy. He's focusing more on his schooling now, but still doing a bunch of shifter kart racing with us. I thought his start, like you said, was strong. But in the end, Micah Hendricks, you got to give him big props for coming home P2.
Yeah, again, I picked him in my predictions. So really, we have 2 former S5 drivers sitting there 1-2 with Race Liberante and Micah Hendricks. So I put a lot of stock in that experience at the Super Nationals. I was really impressed with Salas, as you said, moving up from S3 and was able to take it to a lot of these guys who have been racing Pro Shifter 2 all season long. So to be able to do that, he's going to be really impressive to watch in 2020 because he's got that scholarship now. So we're going to see him on the Pro Tour and at the California Pro Kart Challenge as well. So that'll be fun to watch. But a really cool story by Dalton Egger placing in the 5th spot. Had a bit of an issue in qualifying, was unable to record a lap. So he started 24th in all his heat races, fought his way up to start the main event in the 8th spot. So a really impressive run throughout the 3 heat races for him. And then he was able to grab 3 extra positions in the main event to finish in the 5th spot. So Egger, a very emotional 5th place finish, and just happy to be on the podium at the Super Nationals.
Yeah, he was pumped up and ready to go, which I thought was cool. He just, you could see him looking at his trophy when he was down in Victory Lane after he'd gotten that trophy from Tom Kutcher, and you could just see the emotion of getting it done. And again, struggled, like you said earlier, but was able to work his way back forward. 3 good heat races can make that happen. We talk about situation Saturday and about how things change depending on what happened for you on Friday. And Dalton stayed focused and put 3 really good heat races together. Allowed to launch from the outside of row 4, a couple of spots, and you're on the podium at the Super Nats. So congratulations to Dalton Egger. Fantastic run for him.
And that's why we do the podiums after every race, because the Super Nationals brings that type of emotion. We're talking agreed. 5th place. Just being on the podium is an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, and you want to have that raw emotion, right? You're going to have it in the scale line. If we do the podiums later, as we did for a number of years, that happening starting in 2013 with the rain weekend, I think we had it set up to be able to do it inside afterwards. The emotion's still there, but it's not as raw and it's not as big. And when these guys you see them coming around, getting out of their carts after they've been sent around to Victory Lane, and man, you could just see the emotion. It's amazing.
And there's not as many people because the stands are packed for every race. Even VIP section, the 2 grandstands right there in front of the podium, the grandstand where the mechanics are standing as well. So you got 3 full grandstands plus the VIP section plus everybody around the fence line. So that's what you want to see. Yeah,
everybody's fired up, right? The round of applause, everybody gets ready. Everybody's just into it, which is awesome. All right, guys, let's take another quick break here. In the action, when we get back, we'll give you a trio of race reports. Again, brought to you by Acceleration Kart Racing. We're going to come back and do it with X30 Master, G1, and G2. Stay with us. More to come of this edition of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. With over 35 years of manufacturing experience, Precision Karting Technologies is the leader in American-made components. We produce high-quality products, led by our full line of chromoly and mild steel axles. Metric or imperial, standard or custom, we have what you need. Collars, keys, bearings, we're the source for axle components in the USA. We're not just axles either. At PKT, we can manufacture motor mounts, hubs, brake rotors, and even GoPro mounts. We're also the choice for axle and chassis straightening. We've designed a dedicated table for the sole purpose of straightening and laser aligning your chassis. If needed, we have the capability to cut, replace, and weld portions of your chassis as well. Big crash bent your frame? Send it to us. Broke a spindle yoke off in a wreck? We can replace it. You don't need to toss that expensive frame in the trash bin. We can fix it. We can repair and straighten chassis, and we CNC machine the finest karting products in the country. With over 70 dealers throughout the US and Canada, it's easy to choose PKT. Family owned and operated, proudly made in the USA. PKT. What's in your cart?
The Kart Republic has arrived in the USA, and it's been taking the world by storm. Kart Sport North America is the country's importer and distributor for Dino Chiesa's Kart Republic chassis, and as a leader in American karting, they are focused on providing stability for the sport and quality products and service for the community. Kart Republic racked up an unprecedented amount of championships in its first season in 2018, ranging from the SCUSA Winter Series in X30 Senior, the United States Pro Kart Series in Mini Swift and X30 Pro, the FIA European Championship, and the FIA World Championship in OK Senior. Whether you'd like to find out the Kart Republic dealer closest to you or schedule an arrive and drive package with its official North American race team, contact Kart Sport North America through their official website, kartsportna.com.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag race, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American 4-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, probably what will be our longest debrief of the year as David Cole and I are wrapping up the 2019 SuperKarts USA Super Nationals number 23. We have worked our way through a number of the categories already as part of the Race Report section of this debrief podcast. Again, the podcast brought to you by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, their Race Report presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. David, let's jump into X30 Masters, and history was made for the second time in this particular category. The second driver to become a 4-time Super Nationals winner, now joining the driver Connor De Felipe, who was able to do the 4-race win back in the 2000s. Kip Foster from Australia flat dominated the weekend. Let's just say dominated. Did not make a mistake all weekend long.
Controlled the category all week long, because again,
I like that.
There were guys there that were putting a little bit of a challenge on him throughout the week, and again, Foster never put a wheel wrong, as you said, and controlled and maintained that lead position throughout the week to secure his 4th, provisionally his 6th Super Nationals win. But became, as we predicted, became the second driver to join the 4-win club at the Super Nationals.
And there were lots of guys that were fast, right? You know, Renato Jader David was very quick.
That's what it was, because it became a 3-driver, essentially a 3-driver battle for this victory, because we saw Foster winning all 3 of his heat races, but it was who was going to be the lead challenger. Yep. And it was a fight between former winner Renato Jader David and SCUSA Pro Tour champion Matt Johnson. And so that was kind of what we were watching as the week unfolded, because who was going to be that lead challenger that's going to go and try to attack Foster come Super Sunday.
And I really think that this race could have been something more than it was, because it seemed to me as we were getting into the second half of the race, and Kip even told us afterwards that he had set the tire pressure to make sure he was going to be good early. He didn't want to get caught up in anything. He wanted to be able to get out into that lead. He knew he was going to sacrifice a little bit at the end of the race, right? The guys may be able to catch up to him a little bit, but he wanted to make sure he got out into that early lead. Well, it was John David and Matt Johnson, second and third, working together. And I thought, because I think, David, there was probably 3 laps there past the halfway point where Johnson was in second, Jotter was in third, and they were closing a tenth of a lap, 2/10 a lap. They kept closing. And I just think if Renato would have been a little more patient, I think it would have been a battle, because he decided he was going to go by, and where he went by held them up. That allowed Kip to take off. And even when they were together, when Jotter was in the second, Matt was third. Johnson said he thought that they still could have caught him, but I guess over in turn 4, I think Renato might have overshot the turn in the breaking point and went deeper into the corner. And at that point, they had lost 2, 3, 4 cart lengths, and it was over at that point.
Yeah, fast lap. Renato was the quickest of the 3, had the quickest lap of the race. Matt Johnson was just a little bit off him, and then Foster had the 3rd quickest out of the 3. So again, Foster wasn't the quickest, as you said. He made a little bit of a change to get out there early and avoid the early attack, and was able to avoid the late attack because Johnson and Renato fought each other for that second spot.
One thing I did like, David, we're on the podium, of course. Kip would finish up the interview, and he says to me in the interview that he hopes to come back next year. And all I hear over the shoulder from P2 is Matt Johnson. "Oh, you're coming back next year." Johnson was like, "Oh, you're coming. I've got to beat you. You can't just leave." So in the end, Foster with the win, his 4th. Matt Johnson, a strong run to cap off a great season, won the Pro Tour in the X30 Masters category, finishes second at the Supernats. Renato David ends up in 3rd. Jess Peterson, a pretty good run, David. Started in the 7th spot. He goes up to 4th position. And Bruno Martins from Brazil on the CRG capping up the top 5.
Yeah, and then one of really cool stories to watch throughout the week was the participation by IndyCar's Will Power, making his return back to the Super Nationals. We've seen him here a couple of times before. I don't think he was an Indy 500 winner before that. So this was
not.
This was his first time as an Indy 500 champion coming in racing. He was one to watch, especially in practice. We saw a couple of clips of him getting a little aggressive with the hand gestures, which was pretty cool, and made the flying lap media edit. So that's going to be there for a lifetime. He was cool to watch. He obviously had one of the quickest karts throughout the week. Just had an issue in qualifying that kind of put him back into the blender. As we saw, I think all 3 heat races, he had the quick fast lap of the race. So
he did, yeah.
But in the main event, again, got in the mixer or the blender and got shuffled back to the 38th position, but drove his way up to the 18th spot. So
it was definitely fun to call him all weekend long, because he was making great moves, working his way forward. His passes were just really decisive and aggressive, which was good in those heat races. And again, just didn't get quite the luck, as you said, when you're back there in the mix, in the blender. It gets ugly. But I think for Will, he had a good time. Of course, he also had a notable IndyCar guy working on the wrenches as well, Billy Vincent, who is the director of competition for the what is now the Aero McLaren Racing SP team. He builds his own chassis as well, the MPG chassis. They've built a handful of karts, but just great to see both those guys out there, back to the roots, having fun at the racetrack, just wrenching away. Will was in the wall at one point. When I walked up to the EKN booth at one point, we were right across from Kart Sport North America. They had his chassis on the flat table. They had tweaked it a little bit, and Tim Pappas was going to work on it to make sure it was going to be okay. But I think that was after maybe the second heat, whatever it was. They worked hard. They probably worked harder than they wanted to all weekend long. Right?
That's sometimes how your Super Nationals go, though.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to work a little bit harder, even if you're finishing 18th.
All right, Davis, give us the hard charger.
Hard charger of the race. Again, a great, not the way he probably wanted to end the 2019 season, but overall a great year for Vache Tatikian and the Phil Giebler Racing Ricardo kart. Drove from basically, he didn't make qualifying, so had to race his way as fast as he could through the heat races. Didn't make it through, so had to race his way through the LCQ. Ended up winning the I don't think he won it, but maybe won it, the LCQ, or was able to qualify, but started 41st and got up to 17th after the 20-lap race. So he got the hard charger award. As we mentioned, Foster became the second driver to win 4 Super Nationals, joining Connor De Felipe. And as we said, technically 6 with 2 DQs that Leonardo Nienkotter was able to take advantage of. And, again, willpower, setting fast lap in all 3 heat races. He was the 5th quickest kart on the racetrack for the main event. So, again, had the package to be up there, just didn't have that qualifying. Again, qualifying means so much, as I'm sure he understands how the 500 goes.
A couple of the categories we've seen here, Dave, as we jump into the G1 class here, we saw, Martin Kremers qualify on pole, win all 3 heat races, and not be able to get the main event. It was a tough one for Jordan Musser. We talked a lot during the broadcast about the fact that where Jordan's put himself in the history books of North American karting is way up there in a limited company, right? 4-time U.S. Rotax champion, 4-time Superkarts USA Pro Moto Tour champion. He just needs that G1 race or that Supernats win to really put the exclamation point on what has been and continues to be an impressive career. Qualifies his PSL karting, 3G kart racing Burrell Art on the pole position. Flat dominates all 3 of the heat races, star on pole for the main. But the fact that Matt Hamilton was still there, a guy that was on the podium last year in the Pro Shifter class, Matt had some issues in qualifying, storming his way, as you said, Dave, from the very back of the combined G1, G2 heat race grid. It just seemed like Matt was going to be the guy to beat come main event time.
Yeah, he had to start every heat race from the 21st position. So, again, it wasn't as bad as what we saw in Pro Shifter and Pro Shifter 2. But, again, you have 12 laps to get up there, and he was able to finish 5th, 4th, and 5th. So great recoveries for him in those heat races to be able to put himself on the outside of row 2 for the start of the main event when he's got Jordan Musser, John Grother, Bonner Moulton. That's the only 3 karts he's got to pass in 20 laps.
Yeah, right.
I think you put the money on Matt Hamilton for that.
Well, it was interesting because John Grother, we don't know a lot about John, Sody kart driver from Australia. All 3 hole shots in the heat races too. From the outside of the row 1, he was able to get away from Jordan
and the main event, I believe, as well.
Event. Yeah, but he didn't lead coming out of turn number 2, did he? Didn't Matt Hamilton get him by turn 2?
Yeah, well, that was it. So Grother got the whole shot, so that kind of shook things up. But Hamilton basically came from, I believe, what was 3rd, and dove to the inside of both Musser and Grother to take over the lead going into turn 2. So from that point, Hamilton, that was the first time Hamilton had led all week long and never relinquished the spot.
Yeah, Matt had some braking issues on the Luminos that they were able to get dialed in. That was what happened in qualifying. But man, he was the guy on the move for sure. He's the winner on the Luminos. Jordan Musser ends up finishing in the 2nd spot on the Burrell Art. Bonner Moulton back for his 23rd consecutive Super Nationals. We're hearing rumors that might have been his last one. We're going to see if we can't push him to 25 to do the even 25. Ryan Kinnear, strong season as well. Good to see Ryan out there racing a number of events. Didn't do the whole Pro Tour, but was strong. Ryan on the Ricardo ends up finishing in 4th. And John Grother, the Sody kart driver, was impressive all weekend long, starting from the outside of the front row, ends up P5. David, as you said here in your extras, 5 different chassis on the podium.
Yeah, and what really made Hamilton stand out, he was 0.3 a lap quicker than anybody else on the racetrack. So that's going to be 365 days of homework for the rest of the field to be able to come up with 0.3 of a second. I mean, it was just unreal, the speed that he was putting down. And it's phenomenal to see how he was able to do that. But him and Rob Soares and the Luminos crew, they had everything on point except for that qualifying session again, with just a little bit of a brake issue that forced him to pull off, but unreal.
David's got some good information compiled that we'll wrap up the podcast with in terms of the Constructors' Championship, or the chassis that were able to win. Again, another big win here for Luminos in one of the shifter kart categories. Moving to the G2 class, 45 years in age and older for the drivers in the shifter class on the 175cc IAME SSE. Nathan Stewart, a guy that I know I picked, I think you picked as well to win. Nathan's been a strong S4 driver, S4 Supermasters driver for the last number of years. He pretty much had the handle on things as well, just like Musser did on the Burrell Arts, just that Stewart was able to get it done on Super Sunday as well.
Yeah, but what's challenged in the main event, something we didn't see throughout the heat races as he kind of got away. Again, they had the mixed field, so he had a bit of an advantage through qualifying, so he was able to start away from his G2 compadres. But Brett Harrelson took it to him early on in the main event, actually led the opening 3 laps before Stewart took it back and then controlled the rest of the way.
Strong run for him for sure. Stewart with the win. Harrelson ends up in second. Patrick O'Neill, a great drive to third. Ken Schilling ends up in fourth. And Jonathan Allen, who is a late entry, caps off the top 5 in the G2 category.
He ruined my perfect prediction.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, because you had things handled, didn't you?
We had it. We almost had, I had the whole thing handled. Yeah, but you didn't.
Easy now, Tex. All right, folks, another break. When we get back, let's jump into, let's talk KA. When we get back, KA100 Senior and KA100 Junior after this break. Cometic Gasket is a leading worldwide supplier of gaskets and engine sealing solutions for karting, automotive performance, power sports, original equipment, and the remanufactured engine industries. Cometic karting gaskets are available as OE replacement top-end kits or as individual gaskets and seals. Just like competitive karters, Cometic can operate on the fly and has the unique capability to customize any gasket to meet specific engine requirements and clearances. All of Cometic's fiber materials are asbestos-free and do not require any additional sealants. Viton oil ring cylinder head seals are used in each 2-cycle kit, and Cometic's 4-cycle engine kits feature only the most advanced multi-layer steel head gaskets. Cometic can tailor to engine builder-specific needs through bulk ordering and packaging flexibility. Cometic gaskets are must-haves for championship-winning teams across multiple disciplines of both professional and amateur motorsports. Cometic Gasket, sealing championships since 1989.
You probably know Nitro Kart for making a class-leading cadet chassis, the kart that swept the 2018 SKUSA Supernats cadet divisions and has won scores of races and championships all over the country. But did you know that Nitro Kart offers a full range of karts, including a kid kart and a brand new full-size chassis? Now racers of all ages can enjoy the Nitro Kart advantage of premium components, superior performance, and a wide range of tunable handling. All 2019 Nitro Karts are in stock now, so call Nick Tucker at 704-818-7868 and order yours today.
Hi, I'm Ashley Harrow, a multi-time international champion, but most kids know me as Coach. Under the tent, we aren't just friends. Everyone grows to become family. It all breaks down to 2 simple choices. You can either spend your time winning with us, or spend your time trying to beat us.
Nitro Kart! Race one or chase one.
If the dream is IndyCar, set your target on the road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Our ladder system is designed to take drivers through 3 rungs of competition. The first step is the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship, which features a carbon tub Tatis chassis, 180 horsepower, and paddle shift sequential gearbox. Boost the USF 2000's output to 280 horsepower for the newly named Indy Pro 2000 program, the second rung of the road to Indy, formerly known as Pro Mazda. Add in increased grip and aero downforce, and the Tatis PM18 becomes an incredible racing machine. The final step before IndyCar is the Indy Lights Championship presented by Cooper Tires. The Dallara IL-15 boasts a whopping 450 horsepower. This car itself has helped train a third of the grid expected for the 2019 IndyCar Series. At all 3 levels, you race at premier venues on the same dance card as IndyCar. Showcase your skills under the watchful eyes of IndyCar scouts and owners. The program is unprecedented around the world, offering the opportunity to climb the ladder with over $2 million in scholarships to the champions in USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, and Indy Lights. Former Carters fill the roster of Road to Indy graduates in IndyCar like Spencer Pigot, Zach Beach, Jack Harvey, Ed Jones, Matthias Laced, Felix Rosenquist, Colton Herta, and 2018 Indy Lights champion Pato O'Ward. Recent graduates like Kyle Kirkwood are in the middle of their journeys right now as well. Follow in their footsteps. If you want to race IndyCar, there's only one choice. The Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 60 of our EKN Debrief, our race report podcast. Our final one of the 2019 season as we cap off and review the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals. Of course, our coverage was really 10 days long before we got to the race with all of David's race reports. We did a couple of our new Outlap podcasts. We did all of our EKN Trackside Live coverage brought to you by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy through Super Sunday. The concept was to do the podcast last week. I had no voice. I was done. I'm sure David probably could have knocked it out. We had to try to get the script and everything done anyways. But man, this will be a good way to cap things off. We hope you guys are enjoying listening to the podcast right now.
Nobody wants to listen to just me talk. Come on now.
That's true. This is true. Hey, listen, let's jump into two of the categories that were the most fun to watch in terms of racing, because there was just tremendous battles in both KA100 Senior and KA100 Junior. Exactly what we expected come Super Sunday. But let's start with KA100 because one driver qualifies on pole, but the guy that you and I both picked to win came on strong after that.
Ooh, child. Yeah, he did. Brendan Lemke was just on a mission, it seemed, in the KA100 Senior category. Missed the setup a little bit in qualifying, ended up 7th in that session. Jake Drew on the comp cart was the quickest out there. We knew Jake was going to be a contender. I believe we both picked him in our predictions, but Lemke just had something that nobody else had throughout the heat races as he came from 7th to win all 3 heat races aboard that Franklin Merlin cart.
Yeah, they obviously nailed the setup because he just looked so good. It's like he could put the cart wherever he wanted, right? It was whether it was the inside of 1 or the inside of 2 or a roll on the outside of 2 on a couple of passes to get the inside line for turn number 3. He was just, it's like the thing was absolutely on rails. It's just perfect for him now.
And it was a monster down the straightaway as well, too. It just, maybe he was on a different gear again because, again, we're talking 100cc engines, so they're very gear dependent. And maybe I believe he just had the draft gear on somehow because anytime he got behind somebody, he was able to get around him with a good draft.
So going into Super Sunday, based on what he's done in the heat races, everybody had to think Lemke's going to be able to just pull away. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be easy. And that probably led to the contact that we had on the opening lap in turn number 4. Oliver Calvo on the Praga with leading edge got aggressive. I think he, again, in his mind is, I cannot let this guy lead the opening lap, otherwise we're screwed. He tries to make a hardcore move down to the inside of turn number 4, ends up climbing up over top of Lemke, and in the process, now it's not guaranteed this happened, I haven't seen any video, but in the process, Lemke's pushback bumper gets pushed back as Oliver Calvo drives over top of him. Lemke goes back to 16th, works his way back forward, but that pushback bumper activation was going to be the thing that changed everything.
Well, we assume that because the whole fairing had been ripped off the mount at the front where the front bumper is. So we assume, again, there's no proof that it happened. We don't know, but we just assume that when Calvo's cart ran over the nose and the whole front end of Lemke, it triggered the pushback bumper to go. So it could be it. It could not be it. We don't know. But again, the contact happened and it dropped Lemke back. And we're thinking, okay, he's done. He's out of the race. But again, this K100 senior class, there's probably 10 guys who had the ability to win and nobody wanted to work with anybody. So we saw a lot of exchanging for the top position.
And that was it. Nobody was working with each other. At one point, Paulie Massimino's out in the lead. Scott Foster's right there. I think had they just settled in, they might have been able to push away. Even Jake Drew was in the fight, but they were going back and forth. And we talked about it at the start at this particular track, especially over turn 4 and turn 6. If you're running that inside line, everybody else is taking a wide berth coming through that corner. That's when things stack back up, and that's essentially what we saw. Massimino, David led majority of the race, but Scott Foster, took control, not took control, but took over the lead late in the race.
Yeah, he was able to take over the lead, but he was pressured heavily by Calvo. And then so as they were fighting for position, that brought everybody else back into it. And meantime, Lemke's just charging his way forward, gets into the top 5 within 4 laps to go, and essentially picks off another cart, and he's right there on the leaders. And as they're fighting for the lead, he's able to take advantage and go to second and then go to first, and comes down the long straight unchallenged and reaches the checkered flag first.
Well, and the tough thing was, we'll go to the official top 5 afterwards. The tough thing was that they brought all the carts to a stop before sending them into the scales over in turn number 4. Of course, they send everybody around. Top 5 guys get called in. They send them around, and when Brandon gets out of the cart, he knows his pushback has been activated. So he knows he's not going to get the win, so he can feel it. There was no official thing for me to change the results that I had. I had to use the results I had, so we did the podium presentation with Lemke getting the win, and then it gets called in afterward on the podium that he's going to get the penalties, so I made sure I grabbed Paulie to get a couple shots with him. A tough way to do it. They changed everything after that. Right afterwards, we were waiting to call. We were waiting for pushback bumper penalties and other penalties before we brought anybody forward. They actually took the time to do that, which actually worked out well in the end. But I'm going to give Paulie Massimino props, David. I did that in my morning coffee that we ran after the week after the Supernats. Kid handled it really well, because that's not a way anybody wants to win. He went over to congratulate Brandon on his performance and what he did. Then was able to smile for the cameras and do what he had to do on the podium. But that was tough for Paulie for sure, because that's not the way you want to win a Supernats.
No, it's not the way you want to, but as we've seen year in and year out in the X30 Master category, Tag Master category, sometimes it's decided after the final checkered flag is waved, and again, whoever goes home with the trophy goes home with the trophy. They're not able to take that back after the trophy's been handed out. And Paulie Massimino, he put the work in. As we said, he led early on, or led a majority of the race actually, and was right there all week long. Started second. Was second in qualifying as well. So he was a contender all week long. It's not something that was gifted to him. It's just how the hand unfolds itself, and it's the way it is. And Massimino now is a Super Nationals winner, and that's something to turn away.
That's exactly what I was going to cap it off with. Doesn't matter what happens, he's in the record books as a Super Nationals winner, and put in a tremendous performance throughout the entire weekend. What do you got? What do you got for extras, Dave? Who's your hard charger?
Well, we got to go through the top 5. So Paulie Massimino was obviously the winner. Jake Drew ended up in the second position. Austin Osborne finishing in the third spot. Michael Mishoff coming back, racing with Rollinson Performance Group, ended up in the 4th spot. And then Lemke with the pushback bumper got down only to the 5th spot. So he was lucky because there was some contact that kind of shook things up in the final lap. Scott Foster and Oliver Calvo got into it in turn 9, so that kind of allowed the time gap enough for the rest of the guys who were fighting for position for Lemke to slide in there to the 5th spot.
All right, now
hard charger.
There you go.
Hard charger, Michael Geringer, one we were kind of watching throughout the week, had our onboard from the morning sessions in the wet track in K100 Senior on Wednesday morning. Went from 35th to 10th. So he was able to put 3 of the Merlins into the top 10, with Josh Holtz finishing 9th. So Lemke 5th, Holtz 9th, Geringer 10th. Really good performance by the Merlin Nation.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Some great racing in both categories, as I said, folks. The KO100 Senior race was amazing. I'll remind you, if you want to go back and look at it, it's at the Superkarts USA Facebook page. I think they'll end up putting it up on YouTube after we do the TV broadcast, because I'll be voicing the TV broadcast next Monday. That's going to be on the CBS Sports Network, I believe. But you can go to the Superkarts USA Facebook page, just click on their videos, and all the races are there. Go to watch these races. I watched a bunch of them over the past weekend, and it was fun to watch again. But KA100 Junior, David, we knew we were going to have good racing in both KA classes, and the junior drivers did not disappoint at all.
No, and it was one of those categories where nobody really stood out during the qualifying and heat races. We knew a number of the contenders that were going to be there. Obviously, Connor Zillage coming in as the Pro Tour champion, Kiffin Simpson as the Pro Tour runner-up. And then a number of drivers, James Wharton as the defending winner, John Burke coming over and racing K100 for the first time this year. I don't believe he ran it all year long. So he was pulling the double duty. So there was a lot of guys that were kind of in the mix, and we weren't quite sure really who was going to stand out on Super Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt about that, David. Connor Zilic, of course, coming out of the gate quickly. I think we both figured Connor was going to be in the fight. He ends up qualifying on the pole. 3 different winners in the heat races, though. John Burke, Zilic, and James Wharton. And that just kept us guessing because you weren't sure who was going to step out front because nobody really was doing that. Nobody was taking control at that point.
No, nobody was taking control, and it seemed like nobody wanted control in the main event because everything was just kind of, multiple lead changes throughout the race. I forgot to count how many there were, but it really, it seemed like every lap, every corner, there was somebody new in the lead, and it just
that's it.
And again, it came down to 2 drivers who weren't really factors throughout the week.
Well, who are you talking about? Brent Cruz
Yeah.
and Kimi Antonelli. They end up starting 11th and 12th. Got themselves, but didn't they have an incident in one of the races though? One of the heat races that put them back there. I think didn't they wreck one of the heats?
Well, they both qualified 14th and 17th, so they were kind of in the blender all week long. Never really. I think Cruz had the best finish of a third in one of the heat races, so they were never really able to get out of where they qualified from. So that kind of limited them. But they came up on Super Sunday, and I think a lot of it had to do with the aggressiveness that we saw in this K100 junior category.
And the racing up front, they were racing really hard. Like you said, they kept passing back and forth. Nobody ever lined up to try to pull away. And Cruz and Antonelli kind of worked together, pushed their way forward. They got to the front. And again, David, you mentioned it earlier, the extended run, right, as well. A longer heat race. The drivers kind of got more time to get to the front. And the finish of this one was kind of wild.
I was gonna say this one actually went longer than it was expected to.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, again, I was in the middle of the race track when we saw 2 drivers, and I don't have their names down. Weston Workman and Ben Taylor, I believe, were the 2 drivers involved in an incident going through turn 4. Now, mind you, turn 4 is a flat out left-hander, or turn 3. Sorry, turn 3. Yeah. Flat out left-hander after you come through turn 2. Excuse me. Well, the 2 drivers that got together went straight off into the wall, and when they went into the wall, it caused some wall damage. So the drivers there was no way to get the drivers and the carts off the racetrack, so they brought out a full course caution to fix the wall, get the drivers both into safe areas because there wasn't really any room to put the carts. So we thought, okay. I looked at the phone, 18 laps completed. This race is going to finish under full course caution. Well, It didn't. Supercarts USA pulled a rabbit out of its hat and decided not to count the yellow laps, which would have concluded as they came around to get the green flag for what I guess they're going to implement now is a green-white checkered. And so they implemented a green-white checker, didn't count the yellow flag, so the actual race went 22 laps rather than the 20 it was supposed to.
Whatever they decide to do moving forward, there's going to be an adjustment of the rule book, I would think. I don't think that's in the rule book anywhere at this point here for them to hold off. Right?
No,
so.
and that's what's throwing me off. And you know, it like I said, they pulled a rabbit out of their hat. They decided, well, we're going to go green-white checker. Well, that's not in your rule books. But again, you race the checkered flag, so you know, it's kind of a gray area, but still, it's like, hey, you know, this is the scheduled distances that we're supposed to go to. There's no mention in the rule books about not counting yellow flags, and so I think that's something that they really need to address because they can't. I just don't see.
Well,
I don't think you need to make rules as you go along at an event such as the Super Nationals.
It's really tough to do, and it's a gray area of that rule book, right? And not even a gray area; it's not in there at all. So,
2 years ago, or 2017, last year we were at the convention center. We had X30 Master race get cut short because of a water barrier spilling water onto the racetrack. Right. Well, this is the same type of scenario. There was a caution full course caution brought out onto the racetrack. Every race we saw, I think it was almost every single class had a full course caution at one point through the week. That lap counted towards the race. It was not discounted towards the number of laps that were run. So that's my beef on it. I really think they should have threw the checkered flag and ended it under yellow. And it made things a little bit chaotic for those last 2 laps.
If I'm not mistaken, Antonelli was leading at that point too and went full course yellow, so he would have got the victory. Instead, it ends up being a battle between himself and his teammate Brent Cruz. Cruz able to make the pass. He gets the race win. Antonelli finishes in second. James Wharton in the third spot, Cole Morgan in fourth, and Max Opolsky capping off what's been a pretty strong second half of the season, winning at the Streets of Lancaster Grand Prix. He ends up P5 on the podium in the KA 100 junior class. All in all, David, it was just it was kind of a weird deal. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was a weird finish, but the category was a bit rough all week long, as we saw a couple of red flags earlier in the week as well. So it was a bit weird finish to the category, and hopefully we'll get this straightened out for the 2020 season, because I'd like to not see this type of scenario happen again. It just kind of puts a black eye on the race itself. But Connor Zillage actually finished 5th, but was given a blocking penalty, so he got taken off the podium. Morgan started 21st. He was also, I'm sorry, maybe that was Cole Morgan. Let me get that straight. Hold on. Yeah, Cole Morgan started 21st, so he was able to race his way up onto the podium. Carson Morgan was supposed to be on the podium as well, but he suffered penalties that pushed him off the podium. So that kind of shook those last 2 positions on the podium after Wharton was third.
What about the Hard Charger Award?
Hard Charger Award. This was a unique story. Tyler Wettengel did not race a single heat race due to illness, so he was up in the hotel room for 2 days, Friday and Saturday, I believe, and during qualifying, because I don't think he even was able to qualify as well. Let me double check that here. Where's my paper? And no, he was not able to qualify. So essentially spent 2.5 days, maybe 3 days in his hotel room trying to get over a flu bug that kind of hit him. And he came back Sunday, started dead last, 48th, and worked his way up to the 15th spot without a single lap of racing.
That's pretty impressive right there, I'll tell you, especially in this category.
Sure.
All right, folks. Yeah, when we get back, time for another break. When we get back, we're going to talk X30 Junior, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift as we get set to wrap up the Race Report segment of this edition of the Debrief. Stay with us. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. The end of the 2019 season marks the 7th year of the Aluminos brand dominating shifter kart racing here in North America. Aluminos drivers have earned multiple championships and 3 Super Nationals victories, with more success in the future. The Aluminos chassis is designed, tested, and developed for the U.S. market and is yet fully homologated for use around the world. The design features an innovative waist torsion system that provides for unparalleled chassis tuning. The kart is completed with magnesium components, and we're the only manufacturer offering 100% ceramic brakes. The Aluminos is easily one of the best looking karts on the market, and it's winning at every level. The Aluminos RS1, Rio, and Estero are the leading models, featuring a mixture of tubing size and material. Aluminos also provides packages for 100cc tag competition and 4-cycle racing, and we have a successful cadet version as well. American designed, Italian manufactured, built for karting in the United States. That's Aluminos. The 2019 season marks the 20th anniversary for PSL Karting, North America's importer and distributor for the legendary Burrell Art brand. PSL Karting is your complete source for all things Burrell Art, providing this top quality product both through their expansive dealer network or through their own PSLkarting.com online store. We have over 100 Burrell Art karts in stock at all times. We can provide you with a turnkey package with an IAME, Rotax, Rock, or Briggs power plant, complete and ready to race. Whatever you need is available 24/7 at our online store, including parts and components, consumables like AMSOIL, Motul, and Rotax XPS engine oil, and Vroom lubricants, Micron data acquisition systems, and Unipro. And of course, driver safety gear from Bell, Arai, Freem, and Alpine Stars. Trackside, we're also the karting distributor for Bell Racing USA. Arrive and Drive programs, supported by PSL's experienced staff and our in-house engine program, are available for all major U.S. and Canadian events. When you're ready to win, call PSL Karting or visit one of our dealers. And as always, head to pslkarting.com.
Hi, EKN listeners. This is Jeff Wessel from Streeter Superstands. When it comes to lifts and stands for your carts and the largest selection of shop and trailer accessories, we know all about building and giving you the best. The Streeter Superstands crew has over 30 years of experience, are kart racers just like you, and know that the Streeter name stands for durability, affordability, and most of all, quality. We're the original and genuine manufacturer of Bigfoots and stacker stands, and we build them right here in the USA, along with our best-selling Streeter Superlift, upright stands, and an ever-growing roster of shop and trailer accessories to outfit any trailer or garage. While some guys pretend to be number one, we prove it every day, every race. Racers demand the best, and Streeter Superstand builds it. Check us out at streetersuperstands.com. When it comes to the best in lifts, stands, shop and trailer accessories, and all the cool necessities to make your race day easy and organized, it's all at streetersuperstands.com. We innovate, not imitate. Roll with the best right now at streetersuperstands.com.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden alongside David Cole as we continue, actually wrap up the race report segment of this edition of the Debrief. Of course, reviewing the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals. Let's jump in, David, to X30 Junior. I think out of the gate, the biggest story, and we'll touch on it briefly, was the split between qualifying. X30 Junior, the slower group, qualifying on a wet track. Most drivers on slick or on wets, some on the slicks. 12-minute session, a longer qualifying session. That dried the track up, at least the dried racing line. Everybody in the faster group on slick tires. 4-second difference between the two groups, which means everything kind of got shook up quite a bit there.
Yeah, it was, I believe, 4.5 seconds was the difference between the group Q2 and the Q1 group. So they had to implement the 101% rule and just merge the two groups into the qualifying order. So essentially put fast guys in group A and C, and fast and slower groups or slower drivers in groups B and D. So it kind of mixed things up a little bit. But again, there were some quick drivers that were in the Q2 session that just weren't able to get into Q1. So it wasn't too bad. And overall, I think went fairly well, but provided some opportunities for some of those that were in Q2.
Yeah, drivers are really impressed. Of course, Kimi Antonelli, the driver from Italy for Kart Republic and Rosberg Racing, we expected him to be impressive here, and he was. Qualified on the pole. Freddie Slater obviously getting a heat race win. Connor Zilic, Luke Lang. But I think one of the coolest stories was probably that B versus D group, and that was the slower drivers in qualifying. But Chloe Chambers ended up coming out, David, to get a heat race win. And she obviously didn't back into it. The speed was there because by the time the thing was all said and done, she almost won the race.
Well, she was able to take advantage of the opportunity that presented herself again, because she was in Q2, so she was able to be among the drivers towards the front at the start of all the heat races, and came out with, as you said, a heat win and also 2 fourth-place finishes. So that put her third on the grid for the main event, behind Zillage and Luke Lang, who also won a heat race, and James Wharton, last year's KA100 winner, in the 4th position. But as you said, Slater with 2 wins in 2 of the heat races, but it was the 3rd heat race that basically took him and Kimi out of contention, as contact between those two in the opening lap of their 3rd heat race took them out of the race, put them 18th and 19th on the main event grid.
Yeah, it definitely changed the entire storyline of the X30 Junior class. When we went main event racing on Super Sunday, James Wharton and Connor Zilic able to get away with Chloe Chambers work right there. They worked together. They pushed away. They did what they had to do. Really, what anybody does in these particular races, you're not battling hard. Try to get to the end. Try to see, can't drop the guys behind you. They did that. Ended up being an exciting final lap, David. All three of those drivers, 3 wide into the final corner.
Well, she was just able to take advantage of their fighting really on that last circuit. She just sat there, sat back, waited and waited, got by Wharton early on in the final lap. And then as Zillage ran his defensive line into turn 11, she took advantage with the over under. And as they came down the straightaway, Zillage tried to block or defend down to the inside, but left just enough room for her to get to the inside. And she kicked up all the dirt and dust that was on the inside, and they went 3 wide into the final quarter. And it looked like it might have paid off, and Zillage thought he was able to hold her off just enough, and actually was celebrating as he was reaching the line from the images we were able to capture from the Supercarts USA video marshaling system. But it actually ended up being Wharton crossing the line first.
Yeah, running the outside, did the over-under, or the big outside line to get a good run out of the corner. Wharton ends up getting the win. Zillage in second. Chambers a strong third. Fourth was Robert DeHaan on the energy. And Freddie Slater actually jumping up to fourth quickly, David. But they got a contact penalty that dropped him 5 seconds at the finish, moving him back to fifth overall.
Yeah, he was able to take advantage of a big gap that he was able to establish while running fourth over the fight for fifth. So that gap allowed the penalty to only be one position and kept him on the podium. But you gotta believe that there was probably 98% of the paddock cheering on Chloe Chambers, trying to become the first female driver to win at the Super Nationals.
No doubt. Give us your hard charger and any final notes, and we'll move to Mini Swift.
Diego Conteca was the hard charger of the race, 26th to 9th. And he also recorded the fast lap of the race. So this was the actual second victory by Wharton, who won the KA100 junior category last year. So again, still no female winners at the Super Nationals, but obviously Chloe Chambers matching or being on the podium. So she adds her name to the list of female podium finishers at the Super Nationals.
Yeah, we'll add another one when we get down to the Micro Swift class. In Mini Swift, David, the final race in the category for Kai Sorensen, a former SKUSA Pro Tour Micro Swift champion. He really has been the dominant driver throughout the entire season. He's done so well, won the Pro Tour, one of only 2 drivers, Pro Tour champions this year to actually win at the Super Nats. He qualifies on the pole, wins both heat races, but doesn't make it, actually makes it onto the racetrack, but ends up getting a DNS in the third heat race because he made to the track too late. They had got past the whole field, had gone past the commitment cone. He ends up getting a DNS, but for him to be able to battle back was amazing.
Very, and it goes into question why they get the mechanics away for that final 1 minute. Because again, if you have a starting issue, he had to actually run down the pit lane, grab his mechanic who had ran all the way down to the other end of the pit lane from the grandstands, and drag him and get him back to come back to help figure out what was wrong with the engine and why it wasn't fired. So again, SKUSA might have to rethink some of these rules that they're implementing that they may think works well in certain scenarios, doesn't work well in certain other scenarios. So
yeah, you're right. I agree with that. So Sorensen gets on track, as we said, finishes the race, but
I think it was 6 after. Yeah, there were some crazy wrecks that happened on the final lap. He was able to actually work his way up close to the top 10, and then some wrecks took out a number of drivers on that final circuit. He finishes the race 6th, and then they decide that he is a DNS for the race and should not have been allowed onto the race course.
Exactly. So he starts 9th in the main event, quickly working his way forward. He's dialing it in with Enzo Delaney. Austin Jers was in there as well. But the last couple laps, David, ended up being Sorensen and Delaney. And Delaney was all over him, too. It was some pretty aggressive racing. He ends up getting the lead on the final lap, or the final run down the straightaway. Another tremendous finish, just like what we saw in X30 Junior.
Yeah, Delaney was able to grab the lead going on to the final straight, ran the inside line all the way through to the final corner. And again, celebrated just a little bit too early, not quite at the line yet, had the hand in the air like he won the victory. But again, Sorensen was able to pull the over-under and get under him, crossing the line 23 thousandths of a second ahead of Deligny.
It was absolutely crazy. It was an amazing move for Enzo to be able to make that run down the inside. And, of course, a big wide berth for Sorensen. He does the over-under and just pips him at the line by 23 thousandths of a second, as you said. Another great run for Merlin Nation. Austin Jers coming home in the third spot. Vinnie Phillips for Kart Republic finishes in fourth, and Max Garcia, who was in the Micro Swift last year on the podium, ends up being on the podium this year in Mini Swift. Max had a strong season as well, last year's Micro Swift champion.
Yeah, we're going to have a number of strong drivers next year in the Mini Swift. Some drivers who are in their second season, some guys who are coming up from Micro. Going to be a very exciting 2020 season in that category.
Okay, give us the hard charger on this one.
Hard charger was Cooper. Oh man, see, how do you say that name?
I would just say Lyle. Cooper Lyle.
Lyle?
Probably, yep.
Leslie?
I think probably Cooper Lyle.
Cooper Lyle. We'll go with Cooper Lyle. See,
Lisle.
I didn't even look at. I just wrote these names. I didn't even look to how to say their names. So Cooper Lyle and the Kart Republic went from 41st to 16th. So he was hard charger. And again, as you said, Sorensen, one of 2 Pro Tour champions to win at the Super Nationals this year.
Well, and let's talk about the Micro Swift category, David, to cap off the race report brought to you by Acceleration Kart Racing. Spencer Conrad came out of the gate, and we're saying, this kid's got it. And you picked him to win.
I picked him to win it.
Qualifies on pole, ends up winning the first 2 heat races. Austin Olds gets the 3rd heat race. They joined us actually on the EKN Debrief Live at the bar the one night as well, coming in to say hi. But Conrad was great. Didn't all work out the way in the end, but he was strong from the get-go.
No, Conrad was able to break away early, but was caught up by the 2 CRG drivers of Enzo Nienkader, son of 3-time winner Leonardo, and Gabriel Koenigen. I knew how to say it, I just couldn't say it. Koenigen. They were able to actually run him down, and as they were fighting for the lead in the last few laps, it kind of brought the second group back into the mix. So I think we had maybe 7 or 8 karts right there in the lead group for the last lap. And so it was a great move for eventual winner, Bradley Majman, who kind of pulled off who did it last year? Not Christian Brooks. Who did it last year? Oh, Ben Cooper, going from 3rd to 1st in that turn 4 corner, because both I believe it was Conrad and Nienkader were fighting for the lead there, and Majman just slid under and was able to drive away as they continued to fight for the second spot behind him, and drove away to the victory for the Aussie.
Yeah. So Majman ends up with the win in the Kart Republic. Ava Hansen on the Merlin, David. Like I said, the best finishing female in the history of the race, tying Sabre Cook for finishing second on the podium. That's pretty solid for Ava Hansen.
Yeah, she was in that second group that caught the leaders, and then as they were fighting for second, she did another, I think she went from 4th to 2nd coming down the straightaway and through the final corner. So she was able to cross the line in second ahead of another pack of karts behind her that included Spencer Conrad finishing 3rd, Luis Umana in 4th, and Koenigen in the 5th spot.
So what about your hard charger? Who we see coming from deep in the field?
Jan Philip Krul in the GFC. So the first time a GFC kart cadet model has been on the racetrack at a Super Nationals. He drove from the 49th spot to 23rd. As you said, Hansen was able to tie the best female finish at the Super Nationals of Sabre Cook in 2012. And first win for Australia in the Micro Swift category. So now we've had 4 different countries win the category in as many years.
All right, folks, final break of the action here. David and I will be back. We'll talk Constructors Championship. He can trash talk me about my predictions, and we'll wrap things up. Stay with us, folks. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Are you a kart shop owner looking for a new line of products to put on your sales shelf? If so, it's time to make a call to Courtney Concepts. Courtney Concepts is pleased to offer the entire AF Radiator line of products, including radiators, radiator mounts, water pumps, hoses, and IAMI X30 radiator curtains. Courtney Concepts is also a distributor for a number of popular products used every weekend at the kart track, including Motul Oil, RK and Regina Chain, and NKP. Other products that Courtney Concepts is proud to distribute include ICO bearings, Koyo bearings, ARS oil seals, XAM sprockets, and Frixa brake rotors and pads. Courtney also distributes MC Racing silencers and Opama hour meters. For more information on all the products we distribute, head to CourtneyConcepts.com. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden and David Cole wrapping things up here. The final EKN debrief of the year as we review the SCUSA Super Nationals from Las Vegas in late November. I already went through the race reports. David, let's have a brief look here at the kind of Constructors Championship breakdown. Give me a scoop on who won races, how many have they won at the Super Nats. Let's cap things off that way with constructors.
Well, we said it was going to be a historic event, and it certainly was, especially in the constructors area. 11 different brands winning at the Super Nationals. So that's the most we've ever had at the Super Nationals. So essentially only one kart or one brand was able to score 2 wins, and that was Cosmic with X30 Senior and K100 Junior, and earning its 7th and 8th win overall at the Super Nationals.
Illuminos, another great performance. We've talked about them. They've got 4 wins in their history at the Super Nationals. A couple with Billy Musgrave. Matt Hamilton getting another one for them here. He also won in the S4 class back in 2013. So Matt Hamilton bringing Illuminos their 4th win.
Yeah, Croc Promotion earning their first ever at the Super Nationals with Billy Musgrave winning the Pro Shifter category. So they'll be they were the only brand that actually scored their first win at the Super Nationals.
Yeah, Kart Republic getting their second, as David mentioned before. James Wharton winning last year in the debut of KA100 Junior for Kart Republic. Bradley Majman, another one of the Aussies. It's interesting that both winners for Kart Republic, David, Australian drivers as well.
It is very unique. I did not notice that till you just said that. Comp Kart winning its 3rd ever in its young life. Race Liberante winning Pro Shifter 2. Josh Carr and Chris Walton won in the 2017 edition, winning X30 Senior and X30 Master that year.
Definitely a couple of big wins for the Formula K category, Formula K chassis as well. Danny Formal, a huge win for them in the KZ class. It's their second win at the Super Nats for Formula K. Gary Carlton, of course, winning KZ back in 2015. So they've essentially won, 2 of the last 5 races, right? Pretty solid for Formula K.
Yeah, in the KZ category, yeah. So that's very unique because we've seen that with a number of years with a couple brands standing out. We used to see Tony Kart and Sodi Kart go against each other. So we'll see what the future holds for that category. Burrell Art winning its 12th at the Super Nationals, if you include the old Burrell brand. This is the first since 2016 with Nathan Stewart winning in the G2 category.
Kip Foster and his KF kart, their second ever win with the KF kart, a repeat in the X30 Masters category. Well, in the Parolin chassis, James Wharton, we already talked about Wharton winning for Kart Republic, but Wharton winning on the Parolin this year. The 3rd win at the Super Nationals for Parolin. A couple of we'll go last year to Leonardo Lorandi in KZ, and then you got to go back a couple more years to Jim Russell in X30 Master.
Yeah, a little bit of a ways back.
A little bit,
not too far back.
Not too far.
It was at least at the Rio still, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
FA Kart winning for a 3rd time at the Super Nationals, this time with Brent Cruz in the K100 Junior category. First was Connor Wagner in 2013 in the S2 division, and most recently was Jack Crawford in X30 Junior in 2017.
I'll cap it all off, David, with Tony Kart. They've won a couple of times.
A few.
Go for it.
34 to be exact, Rob. 34 total Super Nationals wins by Tony Kart. Kaya Sorensen picking up the victory in Mini Swift. This is the 3rd in the cadet division for Tony Kart.
All right, David, we're done with the Constructors Championship. I know the next thing on our list is to talk about the predictions and how we did. At least I won one class, right, overall?
I'll make it short and sweet for you. Yeah, you did win one where you scored higher than I did. That was Mini Swift, and that had to do with you picking Kai Sorensen to win. So that did help you in that category. Unfortunately, I scored higher in 4 other categories, including KA100 Junior, G1, G2, and Pro Shifter. I had Musgrave winning Pro Shifter. You did not. I had Matt Hamilton winning. No, I don't think it was Matt Hamilton. Let me look at the sheet now again. We both had Hamilton, but I had Musser finishing second, so that helped me there. G2, I was almost perfect. Jonathan Allen ruined everything for me. He ruined that 1 point I could have got if he would have let Carl Lewis finish 5th, but he didn't. But even there, still, I had 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, where you only had 1st and 2nd in their proper positions.
Let's say this though. Hold on. You beat me, but we both had 31 drivers finishing in the top 5.
We did. We matched there. We were even. And that was actually one of the best percentages we've had since doing this, with 52%. Guessing 52% of the top 5 finishers. So it was pretty good overall for both of us. But again, it's at 2/10 where I'm quicker than you. I was at least 3/10 quicker this time around because I had 3 more categories better than you.
Well, and let's bring this up. I also got screwed with the fact that Blair Hosey had entered the race and then decided not to come, and I picked him in the top 5.
But look at Pro 2. Pro 2, hold on, where's Pro Tour? We had the same score. So it's a wash. We both had Austin Garrison in Pro Shifter, and that was a wash because we both had him, and he didn't raise it.
No, I disagree with you.
So anyway, no, I'm not done talking about how well I did. And then I beat you in KA100 Junior, where I had 5th place correct, and you did not. Plus, I had 4 of the 5, and you only had 3 of the 5 there. So
that's true. You got me. You got me, dude. Congratulations. Well done.
Again, I'm better. It's okay. It's just admit it.
Whatever works. Whatever works for you. All right, let's wrap things up. We got about 10 minutes left of this thing to wrap things up. 6 first-time winners at the Super Nationals. David, let's talk more about how many countries do we have all total?
5 countries represented at the top of the podium this year. 5 wins for USA, 1 for Costa Rica, 2 for New Zealand, 3 for Australia, and of course the Canadian getting 1 victory. So go Canada, go Leafs.
Yeah, so, big money too. Got some cash. 4 wins for Kart Sport North America. Pretty solid weekend for Eric Jones and the crew there. All 4 different chassis as well. They won on the Kart Republic, the KF Kart, the FA, and the Parallel, all under the Kart Sport North America tent for this year's Super Nats. So all in all, pretty good weekend for that crew.
Yeah, it was a really busy tent. Anytime you went in there, it was action all over the place. You had Kart Republics over here. You had the Paralyn. You had a couple of the FA and OTK carts over here. So it was a bit of a chaotic tent, but a successful tent.
No doubt about that. Interesting that you brought up. Only 4 of the Super Sunday pole sitters end up scoring victories. Billy Musgrave, Nathan Stewart, Race Liberante, and Kip Foster. Again, people always want to qualify on the pole. You want to get there, but it really didn't transfer totally into getting the race wins, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Only 33% winning.
Yeah, I think the 2 more heartbreaking ones were Kremers and Musser. I think those were the 2 that could have broke it even, so it could have been 6. But those were heartbreakers for sure.
One of the cool things of this year, we've been waiting for it to happen, David. We mentioned it already in the podcast. 3 4-time winners now for the Super Nationals. Connor DeFelipe has held that position by himself for over 10 years. So it was good to see some more guys come rolling in. And yes, Kip Foster and Billy Musgrave joining with their victories this year.
Yeah, the unique thing about it is Musgrave is the only one to win on 3 different chassis brands. He won Tony Kart in the S2 division. The last 2 wins he had on Aluminos, and now this year with Croc Promotion.
Yeah, indeed. A couple of 2-time winners winning back-to-back in 2 different years as well, in 2 different categories this year. Dave, talk about Wharton and Cruz.
Yeah, we talked about Wharton a lot, being the KA100 winner last year. This year, able to edge out for the win in X30 Junior. So that's 2 wins, 2 different categories. Brent Cruz, last year's Mini Swift winner, moved up to the junior ranks this year. And was able to score the victory in that controversial KA100 Junior victory. But still, victory for him, 2 for 2 for him at the Super Nationals, and Wharton 2 for 2. Well, not really 2 for 2 because he didn't win in KA100 Junior. So
that's true.
I thought I had a good saying, but not so much.
So to cap things off about the number of winners, 1 less in the 3-win club. Obviously, we moved both Foster and Musgrave up to the 3-win club, but Danny Formal now becomes a 3-win driver. There's 11 guys who have scored 3 wins at this particular event, the Super Nationals. We're talking about Alex and Scott Speed, Paolo DeCanto, Michael Valiante, Marco Artigo, Leonardo Nienkotter, Jimmy McNeil, Jeff Luttrell, Darren Elliott, and Bonner Moulton. Pretty impressive run for those drivers. Folks, we're going to cap things off here right now with the EKN Trackside Live race calendar brought to you today by CRG Nordam. If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. After years of independent American importers, CRG Nordam is now managed directly by the factory and run out of the state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nordam is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and they're serious about success. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nordam is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too. So, folks, going to wrap things up here. We're now on to 2020. Unsure of the total amount of races that we'll be running here going to next year for setting things up, figuring out what programs we're going to be at. But the bottom line is, for sure, coming out of the gate in January, we'll be at the SCUSA Winter Series at AMR Motorplex in Homestead, Florida. I'll be down to that one. And David Cole and I will be heading to Tucson, Arizona for the opening round of the Challenge of the Americas at Musselman Honda Circuit in Tucson, as I said. Folks, that wraps up this particular edition of the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been a great time at the Super Nationals. David Cole did a fantastic job with all the coverage. Just an amazing a week at the Supernats, bringing more and more content, new stuff that we haven't had in the last number of years. But folks, we are done. Wrapping up here. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.